Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Today I'm going to guide you through how to survive the first day in Grounded, a brand new series where I'm going to take you through the early stages of the game. So, not wasting much time, a proper walkthrough with the most important things you need to know in the first few days to survive. Day 1 is all about getting to the Oak Tree Laboratory, unlocking brand new items and making sure you got the basics. Grounded has changed so much since its early access launch a couple of years ago, and I want to make sure you got a fresh guide for 2023 for all you new players or returning ones to the game. So let's go. Super obvious one, but pay attention to the menu screen and choose what game mode you want. You can have different difficulties where you'll earn achievements, or you can choose to go in creative or custom. So even before you start your world, really have a look and read about what kind of gameplay you think you'll enjoy most. Is it going to be something nice and easy? Do you want a more harder challenge because you're used to survival games? Or do you want to just customize and tailor a few things? Then the custom mode might be for you. You gain achievements even if you decide to change the difficulty from either mild, medium or woe mode. It doesn't matter, but you won't get achievements if you go in creative mode or custom. Although you can also start a normal game mode, and if you decide it's simply too hard or you do want some of the custom things that you can do, you can actually change it once in game to convert your world into a custom. In custom mode, it labels it very clearly about what you can turn off and what you can turn on. If you want to play Grounded as a RPG game, you can do so. You can turn off the survival mechanics. If you want to make sure that friendly fire is disabled, you can do that also, although that is also disabled in mild mode. Don't want to repair all your weapons? Then make sure you turn off equipment durability. But the best one I found always was menus pause the game. Whenever you're in your inventory menu, it'll give you a little breather to go ahead and replenish your health. It can really make a big difference in surviving. You can also turn off the faction raids. During your course of playing Grounded, you'll be attacked by dozens of insects, angry that you've been killing them or invading their turf, but you can turn that off also. And the most latest changes mean that you drop your resources, but you keep all your items on you no matter what game mode you play, unless you decide to change it yourself. It seems really obvious, but you'll believe how many comments I've seen or gotten about the fact that I've been able to pause the game while playing, as a lot of people just don't realise. Once you've sorted through that, let's start the actual 7 days of survival. Another thing I find really useful is go into the game options in the pause menu as soon as you load up a world, go to accessibility and make sure you've turned on wide interaction. It makes picking up items on the floor or stuff around you so much easier and quicker. So like all good survival games, make sure you're picking up as many of the resources as you make your way out from the case to go to the first field station. Eating some of the mushrooms on the way, and then you should be good to go and check out what's inside the actual field station. Grounded have made hoarding items even easier after an update after 1.0, giving you even more room in your inventory. Take full advantage, load up on as many pebbles, sprigs and plant fibre as possible. When you get into the field station, there'll be 2 machines that you won't be able to use yet until later on. FYI, pick up every data that you can find. It's a requirement to get every single piece in the game if you want to get the 100% achievement score. First order of business should always be to scan 1 grass fibre, then go ahead and craft a crude rope. You then scan the crude rope again, and this is going to give you a whole bunch of different tools and weapon recipes. You can scan 3 items at the analyzer before it needs some time to charge up, and so you're able to scan again. Each item increases your brain power. Your brain power isn't as important as you think it is. It does unlock some recipes that will give you a hint or clue about what you should aim for next. But you also get these recipes by scanning different bug parts and resources also. There's a whole bunch of different tiers that you can get in Grounded, upgrades for your weapons and tools. But the first set that you get, make sure you always craft 1 of each. You need a good axe, you're going to need the hammer, you'll need a spear, and you'll definitely need a spade at some point too. Now all of these weapons and tools can be upgraded once you get the smithy station, which we'll come to in a second. But if you're ever desperate to kill a creature or bug, you wouldn't be so bad as throwing your rock at them. Particularly ants take more stun damage, and then you can go and hopefully finish the job. Be careful though, ants do have a tendency to run away when they're low health. There really is also a viable method now to do unarmed build, but again I'll talk about that in a more advanced guide. Throwing spears would always do more damage, but it does take up a lot more durability on that weapon. So it's always good, as long as you've got good aim, to get used to throwing the spears. Having daily meat and foods to help you heal is really crucial, so kill quite a few weevils and some of the aphids that you'll come across. You can knock any pieces of grass that you see an aphid clinging onto, and they should hopefully fall. Not always to die, but they should be stunned enough that you can finish them off. A cooked bug like this can actually heal you more than a bandage. Range combat is always something you should focus on in the early days, especially against bigger, more dangerous bugs, so make sure you kill as many gnats as possible, as they're the ones that you're going to need to craft your first bow. You'll find at least 1 or 2 spawning just by the small little pool of water next to the mysterious machine. The grounded tutorial does a good job, in my opinion, of guiding you through how to survive really the first day, how to get food, how to use the peeps so you can check creatures out, their weaknesses and strengths, and of course some of the other most vital stuff, so forgive me for stating some of the most captain obvious. But once you've got your axe, go and chop absolutely everything and see if you can get any resources. Some things you won't be able to chop until you get a tier 2, and much later in the game you'll find tier 3 resources that you won't be able to break open just yet. But clovers are probably the #1 thing. This can help you get one of the first arm sets, the clover, and it's going to help you make your lean-to that you can save your game and sleep through the night. Absolutely though, grab yourself a grass stalk and run back to the field station. These, as well as weed stems, are pretty much the only 2 resources you have to carry to a scanner to go ahead and see what they can help you craft, and mostly it's base and base defense features. A lot of people ask about what armors to make. I pretty much say make them all when you get the chance, but clover is the first one for sure. It will help you more really keep food and water at bay. You get a suit bonus when wearing all 3 pieces, just like every armor set in the game pretty much, and this can be a real big change, so you're not having to drink or eat every 2 seconds. It's true it doesn't give much protection against actually attacks, but it's definitely better than nothing. Once that's done, you need to get your crafting bench, but where to choose your base location? For more experienced players, I'm sure we could sit here arguing all day about where the best place to go, and I've done a few videos talking about where I think. A lot of you guys really love the base ball, particularly just where you come out of near the case. But to be honest, I prefer getting just a camp setup for the first week or so, and then I start to think about where I really want to move once I've got a bit more experience. So for now, just set stuff up like a crafting bench next to the scanner and anything else that you're going to be crafting. Or if you really want, you can head up to the base ball to give yourself a little bit of extra elevated protection. Of course, you do need the crafting bench to make the armors, and certain weapons won't be able to craft unless you're actually using the bench. The first couple days you might not have many mutations. These are the buffs that can give you real differences against creatures and give you special abilities. You'll also notice that you get status effects added or debuffs added depending on what you've eaten and what you're wearing. So pay attention to these as they can be really beneficial. You'll always see a brand new status effect pop up underneath your scab on the bottom left. So if you get bit by something and it's poisonous, or you've done a special attack or unleashed a buff, that's when to check to see if it's triggering. We'll move on to that in a bit, but now we're going to turn on the machine, as that's the first step that you should be doing on day 1. Go and chop the grass stalk that's blocking the laser, and then it's off to the mite tunnel. Along the way you might want to consider making a torch. You will need dry grass chunks for that, as well as some of the sap that you'll find on a twig next to the machine. If a torch hasn't actually popped up, make sure you scan the dry grass. By now you're probably getting a bit thirsty, so hopefully you've drunken some of the water droplets that you can see on the top of the grass stalks. And remember, you can use a rock to get them droplets to fall, or go ahead and again tap the grass, and that will also do the same job. If you're really desperate, you can drink dirty water. All it will do is reduce the amount of food level that you have, and obviously if that goes down to 0, then you may start losing life eventually. As I mentioned earlier, cooked food is always the best thing to eat, although eating raw mushrooms isn't so bad as there's usually a big abundance, but they only give you 7 actual hunger each time you eat one. When you get over to the lawn mites, make sure you peep them, and it will show they're weak to chopping or stabbing, so use your spear or your axe that you've crafted. And do make sure you killed all of the mites that are chewing into the cable. This is what you need to do to actually clear out and move on with the story. You'll find 2 outside chewing the cable, the rest will be inside the tunnel. This is where your torch is going to come in handy, so go down and clear out the rest of them. There should be 1 more just before you get to a corner. Obviously deal with any that are on the floor just to mean so you're safe, and then keep going down and you should find another 2. There are some rocks that you can break open with a hammer, but you don't need to do that just yet, as you'll have to come back here anyway, because raw science will spawn inside the small little cave once you've gone and spoken to Burgle. You'll also find some tier 2 rocks in here, so you'll need a much better weapon to come back. So you might as well leave it for now and come back much later. Just like every survival game you've played, if you veer too far off, you'll encounter much difficult bugs, and there is a chance sometimes a stink bug can be patrolling pretty close to the cave entrance. Just run away as quickly as possible, or you will probably die in the first few days. Always keep going back to the analyzer and make sure that you're scanning any new resources. This is why it's really important to build close to one in the early stages. especially the Might Fluff, as that's going to unlock arrows as well as the Might Hat, which is really good for stamina. Go turn the power on and we're nearly done with our first day. We just got to journey over to the oak tree, meet Burgle, and then you can hopefully sleep safely. Don't have to rush though. If you want to spend a couple days doing this, you can do. Explore a little bit, maybe base build if you want, but I really think you'll be safe enough to do this and not have to worry. And it does mean that you'll get to see more of the stuff that you can unlock and use a little bit better. So quickly head over to the oak tree. As long as you're aiming directly towards it and not veering too far left, you won't run into any of the orb weavers, and you might find a small little tunnel that can take you a little bit safer as well. But again, most of the wolf spiders that live directly underneath the oak tree, they should not be coming towards you at the moment. You can't actually build in any of the caves, so sadly you won't be able to make a safe home unless you pull some really mad shenanigans by linking lots of base pieces from the outside all the way through, which I've seen some players do. Anyhow, keep going towards the big purple pink smoke, and on the way you might want to crack open as many of the acorn pieces as possible, as the food that they drop is really much better than mushrooms. In fact, it replenishes 20 of your hunger versus only 7. As I said, speaking about the armors, you might want to craft every one when you can. The acorn set though, I would say it's definitely not the best. It used to be some of the strongest and in terms of early game the best, but it now drags or brings more attention from insects and bugs, which means that you'll have more bugs attacking you. It can be beneficial if you're playing co-op, but I would leave it for now. You can take a little peek at the wolf spiders. They should be pretty docile for now. They'll start coming out as soon as it starts to get a bit more darker. Once you've got acorn pieces, you should be able to go ahead and craft yourself your first shovel. This is beneficial for digging up the grubs, which also make a pretty decent armor if you get enough. Then wiggly lines digging underneath, they're the grubs, but sometimes they can be larvae, which are pretty dangerous in the early stages. The larvae don't make as much noise and it's not as gravelly. That's the difference between them and the larvae. If you hear a really gravelly sound, then it's probably larvae and you shouldn't really dig them up. Once you've got enough pieces of acorn and maybe dug up some of the grubs, head into the laboratory. In fact, you want to make sure you've got 3 pieces to go and scan a resource scanner inside here as well. And don't worry about water, as a recent 1.1 change added the ability to get water inside pretty much every laboratory. I did say earlier that brain power isn't as important because you'll eventually unlock all the recipes by scanning bug parts, but you do get rewards of raw science, and you need a ton of raw science to get that 100% gamer achievement right at the end, not to mention buying and getting all the different types of upgrades, cosmetics and more. So never leave anything unscanned. It should have a little red icon on it if it's not been scanned. Try and scan every single item. Big changes from much early guides. There used to be robots in here that would harm you, but they got removed a little while ago. You can grab all the sap, get yourself a drink, and then take a look at the laboratory monitors. This will actually give you the progression that you've meant to complete grounded in. Now you can do these laboratories out of sync, but I do suggest that you follow exactly the levels. So level 1 is going to be the hedge, level 2 is going to be the pond, level 3 is the haze, and level 4 is going to be the black anthill. These little CCTV cameras give you a little glimpse about what to expect, albeit a little bit mysterious. Before you go exploring anywhere else, make sure you've picked Burgle up and you waffled onto him for a little bit. Indeed, he is the new waffle host. Now you've entered the oak tree lab, you should now start to see raw science spawning. This will be all over the map in 100 or 500 amounts, and you get a ton of raw science by completing and handing in chips to Burgle. Once Burgle has indeed finished waffling, run over to the biometric scanner, and then this will activate all of the ASL machines that you'll find in the yard. You'll find these in pretty much every field station, and this is where you can check on any of the milk molar upgrades that you'll be able to get to increase all sorts of perks and buffs. Check out the science shop unlocks that you get by handing in chips, as well as getting some of the quests that can earn you raw science. Make sure you head back to the doorway that was unlocked with the biometric scanner now, and you should find 500 raw science at the bottom. There is a milk molar in here as well, and we'll get onto that in a while, but you won't be able to actually get these until you get a tier 2 hammer, the gold and the milk versions. So all in all, you should have well over 1,000 raw science. Buy the smithing station straight away. This is how you're going to upgrade your weapons. I wouldn't buy the cooking station or pretty much anything else just yet. Instead, I would focus on getting the multi-story bases. This is how you'll be able to build lots of floors on your base instead of just having walls up. You don't get a lot of raw science for completing a lot of the missions, so your best bet is to get a lot of the chips done and then focus on some of these when you've got a bit more better gear. You do need to find every scab in the game to complete 100%, so you might want to get the scanner, but if you're not too worried about that, or you're definitely sure you're going to revisit other places, I would say leave that for much later. You do have to go ahead and buy every item in the science chip shop to get ahead and get the 100% achievement. And you probably will have to complete about 20 or 30 maybe of these quests over the course of the game to guarantee that you'll have enough to go ahead and buy them all. Once that's all done, go ahead, leave and return back to the field station near the science machine. I wouldn't advise sticking around here at night time. That's when you'll find more of the wolf spiders start to come out and it can get really dangerous. You're probably sick of eating acorn pieces and mushrooms by now, so make sure you kill some weevils on the way home and you've got at least 3 pieces of raw meat. Go ahead and build yourself a campfire and make sure that you've also got the lean-to and you're pretty much good to go. Put your bugs on the barbie and then have a nice save at the lean-to and go ahead and sleep. Although don't forget also to scan any other items that now you've got a fresh scanner recharge. And there you go, you've survived your first day in Grounded. Try not to leave any meat on the spit as they will get munched on by ants, and likewise they will forage any of your chests looking for food as well, so try and keep that stuff on you. Food does deteriorate, so it's not going to last forever, and you can find ways to make everlasting dry jerky meat, but at the moment that is the best kind of meat to have. So always have 2 or 3 on you, like I said, as it can replenish your health. I would suggest you manually save your game always. The lean-to will do an auto, and there's plenty of other automatic saves, and you can adjust how frequently your game saves as well. But definitely always save manually before you quit, and that's it. That's how you survive the first day in Grounded. If you've run into any problems, you could always reload a save there, and that's something you can also do. But I'll see you for part 2, where I'm going to show you guys how to get a whole bunch of weapons and succeed even more.